assume that's come up on the screen.
It has. Yeah.
Yep. So we'll just start. Our II program sort of started back in about 2012. We got grant funding approved to build a new wastewater treatment plant. And obviously, you need some flow data to determine how big your sewer treatment plant needs to be. I'll just see if I can get on what our old sewer treatment plant used to look like, built in the 1920s or 30s. That was a new part, actually, that we can see there. But we had no usable data on actual inflow into the sewer treatment plant, so it's pretty hard to build a new treatment plant without any flow data to base it on. So we had temporary flow data put in a couple of years before for a 3-month period, but then that only determined flow with a 10 mil rain event. So we had no data on big rain events, how that would affect the flow and how much inflow we had. So we went down the path of installing 9 flow gauges in our different catchments. And that's how we determined where we're going to put them, just a mud map drawn up on the wall with a thick coloured crayon, as the town planners normally do. And we decided to put the flow meters in roughly the locations that would determine how much flow was coming out of each catchment. Not quite exactly. It was pretty hard to split some of the catchments up, but it was pretty close to how much flow each catchment was producing. That went on for a number of years. We built the treatment plant based on the flow figures from those gauges. We still have them in place now. And they produce some very different information from that temporary flow gauge. And we met up with Shane back it was February 21, Shane, when we had our first meeting, when you came to council with that presentation on how you could help us determine how much inflow we were getting into our sewer treatment plant. Wow. And roughly 3 months later, we actually accepted his proposal. It took a long time, but you're very persistent, Shane. And that produced the following table where it showed how much flow came in through each rain event. You can see the graph in the top left. There's like a normal type of flow with the weekend flows and a couple of rain events coming through. And we had a cost of how much it cost to produce to treat a megalitre of effluent. So we had a pretty good idea how much this inflow, any extra flow, was going to cost us. As you can see, I think this is only over about a 3-month period when I took this snapshot, and you can see like $15,000 roughly in extra flow of inflow coming in is what it was costing us. So that's a normal flow over that 3-month period. Back in, let's try and get the date again, back in 24, you can see we had not a very big rain event, 20 mil, I think it was, in that period. And you can see that we had, you can't see on this table, but we had 12 meg of effluent coming into our system when we normally only have 2 meg a day coming in. So it was like a massive rain event that eventuated in massive flows being received through it. That led, after sharing this information with the operators, I'm not sure whether the other people at the treatment plant, they have the PID flow for your coagulant in the treatment plants, or the diurnal flow. So we normally go with the PID flow, just based on the flow coming in, you dose to that amount of flow. But seeing those figures and how much it was costing us per rain event, we come up with the protocol. If the rain event was predicted, we switched to the diurnal flow, which is a set figure of 15 litres per hour. And as you can see, they estimated it was saving up to about 200 litres of coagulant per rain event, per 20 mil rain event, which saved a lot of money straight up at the treatment plants. That led to, after more discussions with the team at Ghost, our biggest time waster, especially like my time consumer, was the DPI reports and the other reporting that everyone has to go through. So we come up with a way of just have the basic SCADA tags. I think there was only in those questions straight out of the previous DPI reports, you can see was only about 3 SCADA tags needed to be able to answer those questions, which saved me an enormous amount of time every year to produce that report. And it didn't take that much work to just some basic analysis of the data coming in through those 3 SCADA tags. That obviously led on to further iterations and more tags being fed into our system. But now the engineers at Ghost have moved on to producing water balances for our water system, which is becoming more useful. Like everyone else, the more information you can get, the better information, the better decisions you can make. And even have been able to tell my managers, my directors, exactly what's going on after every read. It's highly beneficial. Just looking at these figures, though, it was made very clear that some of the data wasn't accurate. And I was curious, like you were saying, Scott, that you want a single source of truth. And without someone monitoring that information coming in, like the source of truth could be like totally wrong. And so I was only working with the engineers at Ghost, and I see Tom's on there. His help's been invaluable. We were able to hone, like you were saying, hone the data down and find out where the data was wrong. Like some of these, the unbilled metered consumption, we had to delve into that information from our billing data to work out where that information was inaccurate. And this is one of our first runs at, as you can see, in the water, the ILI data, where they want, I think they wanted about 8%. And these were the figures that we were getting from the initial data that we were getting from the system. And just a gut feel, you know that you're not going to have that much leakage in your system. If you were, it would be running down the street, you'd be able to see it. So after more meetings with the engineers, we were able to refine the data and work out flow meters that weren't being captured or other ones that were that shouldn't be captured. And so we're able to get more realistic figures from that data. But just reviewing the data makes you realise that you need to do some work to be able to get decent data to make decisions. If you're just based on this data and you send that up without reviewing it, the directors and the GM wouldn't be very happy with your area. Another system that we've moved into is, I think it was mentioned earlier, I can't remember who mentioned it, the bore data from your extraction sources. So those figures are used to be manually read meter reads that they'd have to travel 30 k's over to the bore fields to be able to read those meters once or twice a month, and it wasn't very accurate data. You could only get it at the end of every month. But now through Ghost's help, we were able to get those figures in real time through SCADA tags. And the latest in our journey of data acquisition, we're moving on to getting electricity data, and we're doing some work with our electricity providers to get interval data from our sites. And as you can see, this dashboard quickly shows how your pumps and bores are operating and how much it's costing you to move your water around your areas. This one especially is quite interesting to see how much it's costing us per bore, and that may influence which bore you will preference in the future, just based on how much it's actually costing you to get the water out of the ground. But once again, some of this data, you need to constantly review it, and we've found a couple of anomalies in some of the data, which it's a constant process to refine to make sure that your data is accurate. And that's our journey in our data acquisition, where it started from just the II program, working out where our how much water we were treating that we shouldn't be treating, and go back to your insight, Johan, about how you target your II program. When we reviewed the data on how much water was coming into the plant, you could see that it was a sharp increase in the water coming in. So you knew that you had some inflow, but then it was taking days to tail off. We had like high flows for a number of days after each rain event. So we knew we had a lot of infiltration as well in the system. So we basically had to go through a program of inspecting manholes and CCTV, as everyone does, but then we realised you had to reseal the manholes as well as change the lids to be able to prevent the water getting in from in your system. Now that's had a pretty good effect that we don't get the high inflow that we used to. I was just having a quick look at the data before, and we had I think it was back in 22, we had an 18 meg come through the plant in our 3 meg sewer treatment plant. And 24, we had another 12 meg rain event day. But the last year, I think we're down to about 4 meg as a peak flow through our treatment plant. So the program, it's taken a number of years, as you can see, like 3 or 4 years, but it's starting to pay off now. But still a constant process evolving on inspecting and analysing the data. Cheers. Any questions?